Hey y'all, so today I got another review. This time it's a discontinued gem that you can still find relatively easy in your discounters like your eBays, Fragrance Net, Fragrance X, Fragrance Buy, Joma Shop, all those other online discounters. This one I was able to find in person in downtown Los Angeles at a discounter called Perfumes Los Angeles. I've bought quite a few fragrances from them, and this was one of the first ones I got. I don't remember. This wasn't the first one I got, but one of the first ones I got. This, unfortunately, is discontinued, like I mentioned, so you're not going to be able to find this at your Macy's, your Dillard's, your Barney's, your Neiman Marcus. Comes from Escada. This is Escada Sentiment Pour Homme. I don't remember when exactly, but a while ago, Escada decided to axe all of their men's fragrances, and nowadays they are very sought after, extremely difficult to find, with a couple exceptions, and this is one of those few exceptions. I know another one, Escada Moon Sparkle for men. That's also relatively easy to find, especially when you compare it to a heavy hitter like Escada Magnetism, which is extremely difficult to find, and on eBay is a hefty price on eBay, and that's pretty much the only place you can find it where someone is willing to actually sell their bottle. I've worn this fragrance quite a few times. Here's the bottle. Little unique. Little unique. The back. There's some indentation in the back. I actually like the bottle a lot. At least on my skin, this is a juniper berry bomb. And it's actually one of my favorite notes in perfumery in general is juniper berry, because it comes a little fruity, a little sweet, but it also adds a nice freshness, a briskness, and it can come across as a cocktail, like a drink, like a mixed drink. Think of like a gin, kind of like that, but not as alcoholic as that. Obviously, with these fruity notes and some of the other supporting notes in the background, the alcoholic thing, it does not smell exactly like gin, but it can remind you of a mixed drink, which this does. Like I mentioned, juniper berry bomb. If you do not like the smell of gin, you do not like the smell of juniper berries, if you're into fragrances and know what juniper berries are, you're probably not gonna like this. If it performs the same as on my skin as it does for the majority of other people, you're probably not gonna like it. Cause on my skin, like I mentioned, full of juniper berry, a really nice aromatic touch to follow up to. I do not remember all the notes, but I remember in the base, at least on my skin when I wear it, very faint woody base, fairly linear on my skin. This fragrance is, but I love the opening, and I will touch into performance right now because I just mentioned like the dry down and all of that. So performance on this fragrance, Escada Sentiment Pour Homme, is not the greatest. On my skin, I get anywhere between 4 and 6 hours, which for an eau de toilette is not terrible, and for an affordable discontinued gem, not that bad at all. Do not expect this to be a monster in projection or a monster in longevity. This is not what it's meant to be. This is kind of a refreshing, slightly deep, but simple scent that a lot of people, in my experience at least, have gone on board with. In my experience, it's not completely inoffensive, but it's not like everything else out there. This, because of the juniper berry note, and the fact that this is a little older, so the composition is slightly different from modern fragrances nowadays that do juniper berry. So I'll give you an example. Even though they do not smell alike, the juniper berry in this, at least in my experience, comes across in a similar vein as the juniper berry does in Mason Francis Kirkjohn's Gentle Fluidity Silver Edition. So the juniper berry note in both of those fragrances, at least on my skin, because I've tested that out a couple of times, they're very similar on my skin. That one obviously higher quality, longer lasting, projects a lot longer, is a lot more complex. Even though that itself is a simple scent, it's a lot more complex than this. I believe this has a decent amount of notes in it in terms of the note breakdown, but on my skin, it's just woody juniper berries. Performance, like I mentioned, not the greatest, which is why this is perfect for summertime. This is one of my summertime staples. I've had this for well over a year now, and I do not regret blind buying this at all because it is very hard to sample due to the fact that it is discontinued. Actually, this is gonna be my scent of the day, and I love this scent so much. I don't care that this doesn't perform that well. It's just the opening is so fresh, a little fruity, gin and tonic like. It can be a little synthetic for some people, and it's a little screechy. But I actually really like that about this scent. This can be worn day or night because the juniper berry note does give a little bit of that sweet, fruity, playful appeal. I would say, in particular, summer nights, especially if you're at like a bar, you're having a couple drinks, you're at a party. Actually, no, not at a party because this is gonna get drowned out by a bunch of other fragrances. But in the heat, this will pronounce itself quite a bit. In my experience, I haven't gotten any compliments or anything like that. I don't really care about the compliment stuff, at least in my experience. I've gotten a few, don't get me wrong, but that's not what I wear fragrance for. I just wear it because it smells good to me. And that's, if people like it, then cool. If they don't like it, well, then what can I do? But this is one that can get on board. A lot of people can't get on board with without it being completely generic. This is, in my opinion, not completely generic. Juniper berry, as I mentioned before, not utilized all that often in perfumery, especially in the designer market. It's not a focal point in a whole lot of fragrances. I'm not saying fragrance brands don't use juniper berry. It's just not as common as like bergamot, for example, or like cedarwood. It's not one of those notes, or like musk and Bruxen, especially nowadays in Bruxen, amberwood, whatever those synthetic forms of ambergris are. But it's not a note utilized like that. There was a release in 2020. Roche Shalom apparently has some juniper berry in it. That's another fragrance I actually am curious about, especially now that it's well under $40. So now it's a cheap blue fragrance. I'm not a blue fragrance type of person. I don't mind them, but I don't think they really stand out. And I have another fragrance here that I'm gonna review that kind of started the versatile fragrance type of trend. This one in itself can be versatile. You can wear this whenever you want to because it's not a bad idea to smell fresh and clean with a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of depth with it. Like I mentioned, slightly woody base, a little aromatic, but it's all about juniper berry. On at least on my skin, it's all about juniper berry. On discounters, I've seen it on eBay. I've seen it on, I believe it was Fragrance Buy as well. So those two, I've seen this for under $40. I bought this bottle at Perfumes Los Angeles for $35. If you could find it for under $40 and you're looking for a slightly different summertime discontinued cheapie, this is a great option for that. 100 milliliters is a lot. I have a decent sized dent. You could see I've used at least like 10 to 15 milliliters in the course of a year over a year. And the fact that it's discontinued kind of makes it a little better because not a lot of people are going to know about it, especially those who are not into fragrances. They're not going to really know that, oh, Escada has men's fragrances. They did, and they were pretty good heavy hitters. This one, not so much. It's not on the level of popularity like Magnetism. It's not one of those, but it's still really good for what it's worth nowadays, which is that $35, $40, maybe $45. I think you shouldn't pay more than like $60 for this. So if you find, in my opinion, a cheap designer fragrance is under $40 on discounters. Not, you're never gonna find a retail fragrance under $40, especially from a house like Escada or your Gucci, your Yves Saint Laurent, your Chanel, your Dior. You're never gonna find a fragrance under $40 retail price. This is from a discounter. I'll leave a link below where you can find this for pretty cheap. I have another fragrance that I'm about to review, which is not easy to find, and I will review it only because it smells like something out there. So if you want to smell a little different, a little unique, a little bit like a cocktail kind of playful vibe, Escada Sentiment Pour Homme can be a really good, affordable, slightly unique option for you, especially if you like juniper berries. I hope you liked the review today. I'll shoot another review in a little bit, but if this is all you wanted to watch, like the video. If you like the fragrance, leave a comment down below if you have the fragrance or if you're interested in it. Like I said, I'll leave a link down below if I could find a link or two to the fragrance. But till then, I'll see you in the next one.